This is Larry with ManCave Mayhem. If you haven't yet, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that bell for notifications. Here we go, episode 3 of the RZR Resurrection. As I'm putting these crank bearings in, I'm gonna throw that in over here, and then you got the roller bearings over here. Always make sure you use assembly lube or some kind of moly lube or something. I've got this Permatex ultra slick engine assembly lube. It's kind of sticky stuff, and you want to put that on the main bearings and camshaft area. Get that. You can't really put too much on that, and you really don't want it going over into the gasket area, but you want to get that lubed up. So when you put that, when you initially start that engine up, you don't have any issues with it. Seal in with the crank in. Make sure it's not binding or anything. Looks pretty good. Now we're going to put in the counterbalance shaft bearings. That's these right here. Those are going to go in. We're going to do the same procedure. Put some ultra slick lube on that, and we'll get those in there next. The counterbalance shaft with the new bearings and the cam in, and I used a plethora of lube to make sure this is lubed up really good for startup. So now we're going to move on to next. Now that we got that assembled, we're going to move over to the lower half of the cases, and we're going to put the oil pickup, whatever you want to call it, the oil pickup assembly in, and that goes in right here. You want to make sure you get a new gasket on this and seat that in really well, and then that screws down right here at the bottom. So all right, now that we got that oil pump pickup in, now we're going to put the baffle plate in. That goes in here. We're going to throw that in and make sure I get it in the right way here, but anyhow, it's a pretty straightforward setup. So that's going to lay in there just like that. I'm going to go ahead and bolt that in. All right, so now I got that baffle plate in. I used a little blue Loctite on these bolts. I don't know that it's necessary, but this machine's going to be under extreme conditions, so I figure might as well do my best to prevent any failures in any areas of the machine. I don't know if it'll help or not, but I figured I'd do it anyhow. So no rude comments about that, because this thing grenaded before. I'm paranoid. Anyhow, we'll start moving on to the next step. We got all the lubricant on there. We want to make sure all these surfaces are super clean so we can put the 3-bond on. Now, that's what they recommend using, is 3-bond, which is it's basically a silicone liquid gasket material, but I guess it's supposed to be really good quality. And they like it a lot because I think I paid 20 bucks for this tube. So anyhow, make sure everything's clean. You can use acetone or something to clean those surfaces really well. And then we're going to go ahead and start throwing that 3-bond.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Dun, 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 dun. You hear that? Those are wedding bells, because we're going to marry these cases now. We got the 3-bond on, all the critical areas. Make sure you get it around here. It's real important because that goes to the oil pump. So that's critical, because you can see the oil pump intake right there, and it pulls it up right through there to the top of the engine. So you want to make sure that's really covered. Don't use too much. These cases are machined, so you just want to seal any gaps. That's all you're trying to do. So you don't want a bunch of it spewing out into the engine or in other critical areas, and try to keep it away from the bearings. So we're going to go ahead and marry these cases now. We'll throw them together. Cases are together. Now I got all the bolts in. They're just sitting in here right now. And if you put them in the right places, they'll all be the right distance from the as they're sticking out of the case. So that's how you can tell that you got all the bolts in the right places. And anyhow, that's what we're doing. I think it's 22 foot-pounds torque on these case bolts. So that's what we're going to do right now. All right, now we got the cases together. Now we'll move on to the next step. This engine bottom half is together now. That's a good thing. All right, now before we put the timing sprockets on, I've lined up the timing mark with the center of the cases right there where the split is on the cases. That's the crankshaft timing mark. Now I'm going to put this retaining plate on for the cam and the counterbalance shaft. We'll put that on before we put the timing gear on. Now that plate is in. That's 9.5 foot-pounds on these. I don't know how many inch-pounds it is, but what that converts to. But anyhow, I'm sure you can do it by hand and get it right or get it close, but that's what it is, 9.5 foot-pounds on that. Now we're going to go to the gear. All right, we're going to start assembling this installing the water pump. So I make sure the water pump's all cleaned up real good and free moving, and I jammed some assembly lube in this thing too, so it's got, you can see all the red assembly lube in there, and I'm going to pack it full of that stuff and I'll put it in. That way on startup it'll have some pressure, you know, to get started. So I'm going to put that in right now. Also, I don't know if I mentioned this, but this bypass valve that goes in, it originally has this, and they've talked about replacing it with the ball bearings. And I think I'm going to go ahead and take the chance and do that, because I think that will help avoid this from, or keep this from sticking. I don't, you know, jury's not in yet on that. I don't know, at least I'm not sure, but I've looked at some forums, a lot of people do it. A lot of people are against it. I'm going to try it and see what happens. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and drop these into this spot right here. This is where they go. There's a soft aluminum washer that goes on the outside of that. So it goes the 2 ball bearings, then the spring, and then the cap, and that's the oil pressure relief valve. So we'll get that going and get the pump in. All right, we got the oil pump in, and we got the oil pressure relief valve in. I put this filter on just loosely, temporarily, because of the assembly lube, it was leaking out, so I just wanted to put that on to keep it from leaking out into oblivion. So we got that on. Now we're going to go ahead and start working on the counterbalance shaft and the cam, and we'll get that timed up. We got the counter shaft sprocket on, and you can see the 2 dots that are lined up there. That means those are timed. Now we're going to time this cam gear, and I watched a guy on YouTube University, right? And you take a screwdriver and put in this hole, because it's spring loaded. So to line up these teeth better, you put a screwdriver in there and kind of pry it to where it's lined up, and then you put the bolt that you actually use to secure that in the hole, and it keeps it lined up while you're timing this one. So this one will go on next. So we'll position the cam in a way to get this dot lined up with this dot here, and we'll be ready to go. So we'll do that now. Yeah, we got all the gears in now. Timing gears are in. These are torqued to 22 foot-pounds, and it's all timed up, ready to rock and roll. It's been spun around a couple times. I put some of that sticky, gnarly assembly lube on the gears, so hopefully it'll be nicely lubricated for a minute while it's going through startup. Now we're going to go to the stator cover and get everything put together on this now. And we're going to put seals in it. Water pump seal goes here, and then I think this is the crankshaft seal here. So we'll get that all together now. All right, I got these seals in. They were kind of a pain in the butt, but I did the water pump seal, which kind of spring loaded. It's kind of a tricky little seal to get in there. I think I got it in right though. And then behind that is a seal like this that goes in behind the water pump seal or whatever that is. That spring-loaded seal, and then the main crank seal goes in this way, and that's where we are right now. This is where the starter hits the flywheel, so this will get a little grease in it. This is going to be kind of the dry side, and this goes on like that. So we're going to clean all this up a little better. This looks pretty bad, but it's pretty clean. And so I got to go on this side and just kind of clean up as much as I can. There's a little bit of residue here, and I'll wipe it down with some acetone, and then we're going to go ahead and put the gasket on it and get that on there, and then we'll move on to the next thing. All right, we got the stator on, we got the wire cover on, we got the seal in. Now we're going to go ahead and get this Bendix setup in for the starter. So we want to grease this little bushing here We'll actually grease this part over here. We'll grease the the end of this here, where that goes for the starter, because this is gonna have a lot of cold starts, and we want to try to get that keep that greased up, and that goes right in there like this. I do believe. Maybe I'm backwards. I might be backwards. We'll see. I think maybe it goes in like this. Yeah, I think that's how it goes in. So we're gonna put that in, and then we'll get the flywheel back on. So that's the next step. This, like I said, this isn't really a how-to video, but it's just kind of showing you what I'm doing in the process to get this beast back together. It was a basket case when I got it. I'm hoping I can get it back together in one piece and get it running. We'll see. Flywheel on, torque to 65 foot-pounds. Got the starter Bendix in, greased up, ready to rock and roll. Now we're gonna go throw that cover on. I think that's the next step. We'll see here. It's getting closer and closer to being done, which is good. Cover on. The whole bottom end is done now, other than just, we gotta get this water pump sealed up here, taken care of, and we're gonna work on that right now. Water pump rebuild kit, but I also got this new impeller just to show you what we got here. Impellers grenade a lot. They get hot and they melt, so I opted for the billet impeller. So we're gonna go ahead and put that on. That has to go, this seal has to go up against this, and then that rides against that like that. So we're gonna get that in there, get that going, and we'll get back. We're gonna replace this, put this billet one on now. Do the little billet upgrade. If I can get this thing to go on in the right position here. There we go. That's on. We'll clean this nut up and we'll throw that on there. The water pump impeller nut is a 108 inch-pounds torque setting. So we're gonna put that on now, and then we'll throw this cover on. Got a new gasket on the cover, and we're throwing it on. I'm gonna put this water pump cover on now. We've got everything torqued down. These bolts are all loose. Setting on these bolts are 96 inch-pounds. I got these lifters marked, you know, from the dipstick over. And so I put them back in the right holes. I don't know how critical that is, but right now I'm gonna clean those up and get those back in the right holes. And I'll probably lube them up with a little assembly lube and maybe some Marvel Mystery Oil dumped down into them just to get them so they prime up real quick. So we'll do that next. All right, because this engine was so bad, I got these lifters. I don't know if it's good or not, but I put these lifters in some Marvel Mystery Oil, and I'm gonna soak them overnight just to get some of that dirty, nasty oil out. I don't know what kind of metal got into this engine. It was pretty bad when it grenaded, so I just want to make sure these lifters are okay. There didn't seem to be any metal that got up into that area, but I just want to make sure by keeping it clean, and so I'm getting some of that dirty oil out by just soaking it in that Marvel Mystery Oil, and then we'll go ahead and drop them in the morning. I got them in order, you know, from this side of the engine right here. That's the first one, boom, and it'll just drop right in from there. So we'll do that in the morning, and I'm zipping it up for now. It's Christmas Eve 2020. We're gonna kiss this frickin' year goodbye. Thank goodness, right? And I got an end of the world machine getting ready to be used. So I'll talk to you tomorrow. All together, we got the lifters put back in. These are hydraulic lifters, so you don't really need to even adjust the valves on this, which is great. Got the water pump on. Now we're gonna go ahead and start reassembling this head. I cleaned this head up. It looks really good. The seats look good. The guides are good. So I just put, you know, the exhaust valves don't really have seals on them. They're just these steel rings. So those go back on. And I got the new seals right here. These are the new rubber seals that are going to go on right here. And we'll get those put on. And then we're going to reassemble this head. and set that aside. So we'll get that going right now. Hey, this is Larry with ManCave Mayhem. Thanks for watching episode 3 of the RZR Resurrection. Stay tuned for episode 4. If you haven't yet, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and just remember, I'm just a man in a cave causing mayhem. Thanks again for watching.